Right, so we're doing a full body chiropractic adjustment here on this 15-year-old gelding. I'm working in North Phoenix today. Starting to get a little warm out here. It's probably in the upper 80s, I would think. Flies are coming out like crazy. Gotta love this time of year. But it's only gonna get worse for the next few months, so definitely need to just enjoy it as much as I can for now. He's right off the bat, he's clearly high on the left side of his pelvis, got a little rotation posterior inferiorly back there. We call that a PI ilium. So this side of his pelvis is basically restricted going behind, because when it's in this position, it means that the pelvis is positioned like that right leg is coming forward. And because it's positioned like the leg's coming forward in a neutral stance, when he goes to extend the leg, it's going to be tight. So yeah, that's really, really obvious. So I'm going to be adjusting the left side of his pelvis down and forward, and the right side of his pelvis up and back. You might be able to see that from the camera, but his head's kind of blocking that. Let me show you from this angle right here. So let me see if that's yeah. So if you look right down his back, you can see this side over here is high and that side over there is low, right? So when you have a high side, that side of the pelvis is stuck basically in a flexed position, like that leg is, hey gorgeous, like that leg is coming forward. And when you have the low side, that means the opposite. So it means that other side, the low side, is stuck like that leg is going behind. And the reason for that is when you have SI joints that are misaligned like that, they're going to be misaligned in opposite directions because of the way the pelvis moves, right? So when they're walking, they're doing this. One leg's coming forward while the other leg's going behind. So if I have a pelvis that's stuck high on one side, which would be this side, then the other side's going to be low. It's going to be stuck in opposite directions. So, and the key is, it doesn't really matter what side is causing the problem. You have to clear out both sides, because even if you think you know the side that's causing the problem, you're going to have to, you could be wrong. So you're going to have to clear out both sides anyway. And then there's other compensations that occur because of a rotated pelvis like this. So you have to take care of the compensations as well. Good boy. Now the problem is, a lot of times a pelvic rotation like this will cause a symptom, usually some type of movement issue that's, they're not moving properly. Or sometimes they'll look off. So, they'll call a vet out to check them. They'll end up injecting hocks and stifles. They'll inject the sore spots, but 9 times out of 10, the sore spots are the compensatory areas. So we're not really taking care of the problem. We're just covering up the symptoms that are caused by the problem. And granted, some horses do need to be injected because of, the unnatural movements that they're forced to do, and also because they might have degeneration, bone spurs, things like that in, let's say, the hocks and stifles. But I think the vast majority of the time, we're injecting because they're sore, because there's an issue somewhere else in the body, and the hind end is compensating for that. And he's a good boy. He's a little jumpy, but he'll calm down. He's 15. He still acts like a little 4-year-old. But he's a super, super cool horse. I really like this guy. All right, so I'm going to adjust the low side first. That's just personal preference. And then I'll go and I'll recheck the other side. I think a lot of the times when I adjust the low side first, it takes care of that high side. So I'm going to adjust this right SI joint. So my movement is nice and slow and deliberate. So if I push too hard and too fast right off the get-go, he's going to be out of here. So I want to get him to just take my pressure, lean into me a little bit, and then when I get him to, there we go. When I get to that end range and he's still relaxed, that's when I do the adjustment. Good boy. So this guy's a little rope horse. Super, super cool. Looks like at some point he got kicked in his neck. He's got a couple pretty big divots on this left side, but it doesn't seem to bother him at all. Good. And I'll show you that pelvis again when I'm finished. That left side is still high. So because that right side flexion adjustment didn't correct it, I'm going to adjust him on the other side. Oh, good boy. And then once I do that, I'm going to hit some pressure points and take this SI joint through its range of motion. And I'll do that with both SI joints. Oh, buddy. Come here. Are you camera shy, my man? Come on. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to bring him down. I'm going to hit these pressure points first. There we go. And, oh, come on. Oh, maybe he just wants to show you his butt. There we go. So you can see, you know, right off the bat, it's pretty good now. It's a lot better. But I still want to adjust this side. There we go. I think he's a little pissy because of the damn flies too. There we go. That's a good boy. I'm going to spin him back around. Whoop. There we go. Good boy. Good boy. Try to square him up a little bit. There we go. Good boy. So we're still a little high on that left side. So I'm going to hit a couple pressure points back here, get him to flex the right and extend the left. So down here and down in the back right. Oh, there we go. And we got a nice release in that low back there too. Good boy. Good boy. Come on. Come on. I know these flies are pissing them off. I need to start carrying my fly spray with it getting warm again. Come on. Come on. Good boy. Good boy. So I'll show you his pelvis now. Get another good view of it. So, oh, stand still, buddy. Come on. Oh, the flies are annoying him. Or maybe I'm annoying him. I don't know. Could be the case. So you can see his pelvis now. So it's a lot better, but still just a little bit high on this left side. So I'm going to work some mid to low back stuff right now, see if I can get him to loosen up. I've got some really, really good stretches I can show you the next time I have you on my table and along. No problem. Get that pelvis fixed right up. That's a good boy. Let's see. Yeah, so let's check his back, see if he's got any areas that are bothering him. That feels pretty good. Now, when I see a SI joint misalignment, specifically on the high side, so on him it's his left side, I'll typically find pull issues on the opposite side. So at the high left side pelvis, usually I'll find issues on the right side of his pole. There we go. And the reason for that is if we have a pole misalignment, we'll usually find those compensations at the SI joints. And as I go down the neck, if I find issues further down the neck, I'll find issues further up the back. So we can basically take the horse's pole and neck, superimpose it over the back, right? You got to stretch it out in your mind a little bit, right? But you want to put the neck and pole over the back and say, okay, if I have a problem up here in the pole, I'm going to have a problem at the complete opposite end. And then those problems work their way together. So if I have an issue at C7, which is the last vertebrae in the neck, most likely I'm going to have an issue somewhere up in the thoracic spine, somewhere around T1 to T5. That's just the way the compensations work and just what I've noticed over the years that I've been doing this. So Emma, I might have to check your upper neck as well as your pelvis. Oh. But we'll just check everything just in case. Whoa. Just trying to see if he'll come around and touch my hand on his shoulder. Now when the flies are out and they're pissing off the horses, you know, they get super sensitive and they don't want to come around because they've been doing this all day, reaching around, biting at flies, and they just want to go back. This is super, super common. He seems like he's going to come around. He's just hesitating, but I think I'm going to get him to come around. I'm just going to stick with him for a second. Oh, almost. We'll see if he'll come around and touch for me. Whew. Not interested. That's okay. I'll just check him manually, get him to come around without the pressure points. Whew, it's so bright out here. It's hard to see my comments, but thank you all for coming in and checking out my live. If you guys don't mind hitting that like button for me, that would be amazing. And if you want to subscribe, I'd love to have you as part of my channel. Yeah, Oklahoma City, man, you should be able to find some good people there. There's one doc there I know of, his name's Dave Tran. You can try to find him. I know he is in OKC. He's a upper cervical guy. I don't know if he does full spine, but I know he does the upper neck. Yeah, the flies are super bad today. Good boy. Oh. All right, let's see if he'll come touch on the left. Almost. Oh, can you come touch my man? There you go. Better on the left side. So let's check that right side again. I didn't expect him to come around on that side. Let's see. Yeah, so he just wants to go away. So we're looking more at an actual issue on this side than an issue with the flies. So let's see. I'm just going to try to bring him around manually without using the pressure points and just see if he's willing to rotate like that. So he starts to come around and then he stops. So right now I'm thinking pull on the right, which is what I was thinking initially because that SOI joint on the left was a mess, and you can see that compensation rings true for him. There we go. So do that upper neck adjustment. Good boy. Just give him that for a second. Such a sweet horse. He's a little rope horse. Super cool little gelding. Awesome. If you guys want to learn how to do any of the stretches I'm going to be doing for these horses, you can check out my link in the description, or you can just go to sporthorsechiropractic.com. And right now I'm giving away a free 2-step guide to help you solve your horse's hind end issues. So if you have any issues with your horse's hind end, legs, SI joint, things like that, you can get a free guide at my website as well. And then I have a equine stretching course where I teach you how to do stretches for your horse's entire body with pressure points and manual stretches. So if you want to learn how you can get some more performance out of your horses, you can check that out as well. I'm going to check his pull and extension. Good boy, no problems there. And I always like to put them on my shoulder and extend it this way too, just to make them come straight out into extension versus pointing their muzzle, excuse me, straight up to the sky. Just another way to check extension. Good boy. Easy, easy. You can see there's a little fight with this one, but he goes up in the air just fine. Good boy. So I'm gonna let him fuss, and when I feel him drop on my shoulder, I'm gonna adjust this one. So he's fussing. Oh my goodness. That was huge. So when I'm adjusting their pull like that, I try to see where I can bring them down to, how far I can bring them down before they start throwing their head up and fussing with it. And if I can get just before that point where they fuss and adjust it, I can usually get a really nice release. That's what just happened with him. Good boy. So the primary motion that occurs up here at the pole is flexion and extension with lateral flexion. So you always hear people talking about breaking over at the pole. Breaking over at the pole is lateral flexion. So lateral flexion for us is ear to the shoulders like this. But because they're down on all four legs, lateral flexion to them is this. So when I'm doing this movement here and I'm bringing them around my hand like this, that's lateral flexion for a horse. So that and flexing and extending like that are the primary movements at the pole. And if you have an issue in one, you're going to have an issue in the other, which is why we had lateral flexion on the right and an extension issue at the pole. Good boy. So I'm going to bring this leg up, check the shoulder and abduction, so he can bring that out to the side, no problem. Oh, good boy. Really nice rotation in the shoulder. And really nice rotation in the wrist. That's right, this is a wrist, it's not a knee. I think people only call it a knee because they say they have four legs, but they don't, right? They don't have a shoulder and then a knee, right? That makes no sense. But in the equine world, for some reason, we call this a shoulder and then we call this a knee, but it's not. It's a shoulder, then we have an elbow back here, and then we have a knee right here, AKA wrist, right? Shoulder, elbow, wrist, hand. This bone right here, the cannon bone, is actually called a metacarpal. Carpal means wrist, meta means change. So this is changing from the wrist to the hand. So this bone here is the same bone in our hands right here. So we have 5 of them, and they have 1, but they actually have 3. They have 2 splint bones, which are remnant metacarpal bones of their 2nd and 4th digits. This is actually the 3rd metacarpal. This is the 3rd phalange, right? We say P3, number 3 phalange. Phalange means finger. So they're actually standing on the tip of their 3rd finger. Pretty cool when you think of it anatomically, how a horse is structured. Good boy. Oh, good boy. Yeah, so in veterinary terminology, this right here is called a carpus. Carpus means wrist in Latin. And it's funny how many people I get making comments about this not being a knee. Like, how can it, or that it's not a wrist. How can it be a wrist? It's a leg. But they don't think about that they're calling this a shoulder, and then they're calling this a knee, as if there would be a knee below shoulder. And the other thing too is there's no kneecap here, there's no patella. And in order for a joint to be a true knee, it has to have a patella, which makes the stifle the horse's actual knee. But I don't think I'm going to get an industry change here into calling this a wrist. So in my videos, you'll hear me call it a knee just because that's what most people refer to it as. But I always like to clarify that it's not actually a knee, it's a wrist. Even under x-ray, you'll see that our wrist has, oh, good boy. Our wrist has 8 metacarpal bones, or sorry, 8 carpal bones, which are 8 wrist bones. Their wrist has 7. They have 2 rows of 3 and then an accessory carpal bone in the back, where we have 2 rows of 4. And then we have a radius and an ulna here and the 5 metacarpals, whereas they have only 1 metacarpal and then they only have an ulna. So, good boy. So whereas we have 15 bones in our wrist, they have 9 bones in their wrist. So we have a lot more movement, meaning we can do a lot more circumduction like this, but horses can still do it. That's why I rotate it, and that's why I rotate that lower leg so much, just to try to make sure all the primary and secondary movements of the carpus are moving well. Good boy. So I'm going to get his back legs done. Good boy. He's being real patient considering he's obviously irritated at all these flies. I can appreciate that about him for sure. Oh. As I say that, he's backing up. Come on. Good boy. Good boy. Really good horse. Ooh, a little release in the stifle there. So a release in the knee. Oh, good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Come on. I'm still surprised to this day that horses don't try to kick me when I do that hind leg adjustment like that. Like, I can only imagine being a horse, not expecting anything, and you get a pop in your hip and not, you know, not just reflexively kicking out. I'm trying to get him to stand so you can see this one, but he's got other plans, I think. Good boy. Whoop. Stay. Stay here, buddy. Oh, 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 oh. Good boy. Oh. Come on, stop going away. Maybe if I turn him around for you. Hey, don't do that. Back. Over. There we go. Good boy. Oh, oh. Oh. Good boy. There we go. Oh. Oof. All right. A little uncomfortable on this side, or at least a little bit more nervous about me picking it up. Oh, really nice release in that hip. Maybe that was why. Maybe it was just a little bit tight over there. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Ugh. Can't wait till it's 110 out here again, 120. And I'm already feeling hot at like 85. Come on. All right, so this is another pressure point stretch that I do after every adjustment. And this is a TMJ stretch. TMJ stands for temporomandibular joint, which is the junction of the mandible and the temporal bone of the skull. So temporal bone's here, mandible's here, TMJ's there. And everybody says, oh, my horses have TMJ. Yes, your horses have two TMJs. TMJ is not the name of a condition. TMJ is the name of the joint, temporomandibular joint. If you have a dysfunction or a disease of the TMJ, then it's called TMJD, but everybody just calls it TMJ, which is funny. So this is a good pressure point to get them to chew, really stretch that TMJ. And what I'm looking for is that they're throwing that lower jaw, they're throwing the mandible equidistant to both directions, and that they're opening their mouth up about the same amount on both sides. Also looking for any clicking and popping as they're chewing, any signs of pain or discomfort. And then I also like to peek in their mouths and take a look at the teeth, which his look really, really nice. I would put money on it that he just got his done not too long ago. And that's it. Just let it go. And you'll notice after I do that one and let go, they'll sit here and chew, they'll keep shaking their head, they'll yawn. There we go, case in point. They'll yawn, they'll flip their eyelids a bunch, take deep breaths, drop the head, they'll give you a ton of signs of relaxation. And it's a really good stretch to do if you have performance horses before you actually compete on them. Because even though it takes that little edge off, it makes them relax a little bit, you can hear that deep breath, they will still perform phenomenally, and a lot of times they'll perform even better than when you weren't doing that TMJ stretch. And there's neurological reasons for that, but we don't have to get too nerdy on this live. I'll probably do a separate video on the TMJ altogether because there's a lot of questions about it. But if you check out my description on this video, you can see my equine stretching masterclass, and you can learn how to do that stretch there, along with, I think, 25 other stretches that I have on my masterclass. Awesome. If you guys don't mind hitting that like button for me real quick, I'd really appreciate it. If you have already, thank you so much. And I'd love to have you subscribe to my channel as well if you'd like to get notified about more lives. And I'm going to be doing some subscriber only lives here where I just grab a horse and you know, you can ask questions about what to do for certain issues, and I can show you what I would do on the horse that I'm working with. And then you can learn how to do stuff for your horses to help them with their particular issues. And then we can get more in depth on your questions, and we can just take our time where I'm not in a rush because I'm working on a client's horse. So if you would like to subscribe, you can do that as well in my profile. I'm all done with him. He looks to be kind of relieved about that. But that's how he always is. He's just a super good horse. Let's see. Let's see. Horse people. Yeah. I'm sorry. Mine is not science. Mine is pseudoscience. So get it right. All right. Snake oil is not science. It's pseudoscience. Ever wonder if the horse thinks you're talking to him or yourself? Yeah, that's a good question. That's probably why it was a little jumpy. He probably thinks he's got a psycho working on him. There we go. Yeah, the right hip was lower. I might have been saying that backwards. It's the left hip that was high, the left SI that was high. It's not the hip. The hip on a horse, the hip on the horse is not up on the top of its back. Those are the SI joints. The hip is down lower, kind of where your own hip is. It's on the side. But I know people refer to that as the hip, but it's not the hip, it's the SI joints. So, all right, I gotta sign off, move on to my next horse, but thank you guys very much for watching. Again, if you can hit that like button for me, I'd really appreciate that. And I hope you guys, and thank you very much for that like. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again for watching.